Don and Toby and I, they must have had a special on ties. It's a good one. It's a good one. Toby? Sure. Don's going to give our blessing tonight.
We thank you for our great university, and I thank you for a wonderful athletic department. I pray that you will continue to bless us and help us. I thank you for the athletes, for the Hall of Famers, and for all their families. I pray you'll bless the food in Christ's name. Amen.
We'll have a couple of special presentations here in just a moment. We will then transition into the Hall of Fame inductees and their speeches. Everybody ready? We'll introduce the class all together, and then ultimately what we will do at the end of this part of the program is we'll transition down to the Boone Convocation Center for the Trojan Award Show. There's something for me that's kind of unique about a Hall of Fame inductions ceremony like this, or a dinner. Very, very often, Hall of Fame inductees, this is the last thing that they really want, last thing that they thought would happen because of their humility, because of their leadership. A lot of times they were just servant leaders. Yes, sometimes they were loud, sometimes they were extremely confident, but they were almost always those quiet, confident people who excel in athletics and then go on to become excellent citizens, and that's what you have done for us. I suspect that many of you will come up here and try to say how much Trevecca means to you and what Trevecca did in your life. And what we would just like to do a little bit tonight is to say, no, it's what you did for us, and that's why we're honoring you. I do have a couple of presentations I'd like to make. This time of year, we tend, at the end of the school year, give Superlative Awards, and this is one that when I first came here to Trevecca a couple years ago, I loved the symbol of the helmet. The Trojan helmet is just a symbol. It's just a symbol of hard work. It's a symbol of loyalty. It's a symbol of a warrior attitude in some cases, and just a symbol. It's a symbol for what we stand for. And we have given away several of these over the last several years. And a lot of people who have received this are in attendance tonight. And if you have received one of these helmet awards, I'd like to ask you if you would stand, please. Let's give him a hand. Here you go. Thank you. It's an award that I want to give tonight to somebody who's given an awful lot to the university, spent an awful lot of time here, a number of different ways, and he actually doesn't expect this to happen. And so I want to give this award personally to Mr. Greg Ruff. Thank you, Greg. I have another award that I'd like to give that I've never given before. It's a phenomenal, very small, you can't see it, but it's a ring. It's a Trojan ring, and it means something, never ending. It's just someone who's been here for a long time and who's meant an awful lot to me, who has someone who is going to be stepping away from a position that he's been in for a long time. But not to be forgotten, not to be left away. He's going to be here. He's going to be doing a lot. He's going to be doing a lot for me, hopefully, and that is Steve Harris.
Our first honoree is Mindy Seigenthaler Norris, and Mindy came here and was a part of a great run of athletics that really started around 2004, and that whole decade was just tremendous, but she was one of the highlights of that and really helped get it started. Coaches love parents. They also have parents that don't always help. Mindy's parents did, and her dad is going to come introduce her, and he was a great support, and his wife was a great support to, I know, Michael Johnson and other people here at Trevecca.
Mindy first started playing golf around age 10 or 11, and that's a little misleading. I started dragging her to the golf course at around age 10 or 11. The only way I could get her to the golf course was to bribe her. Now, those of you that play golf, I said, baby, if you'll go play golf with us, I'll let you drive the golf cart. Well, obviously, that's very illegal at age 10 or 11, but that got her to the golf course nevertheless. Or if that didn't work, we were going to get ice cream afterwards. The summer before her freshman year, we're riding, I can remember it clearly, we're riding down the road and she makes an announcement just out of the blue to her mother and I, and she says, you know, I don't think I'm going to play soccer anymore. Growing up, she's always played basketball, always played soccer. And before I could say anything, her mother chimes in and says, and exactly what are you going to do with your free time? Mindy's response was, I'm going to play golf. Well, I was floored. I was elated. And I asked her, are you serious? And she said, yes, Dad, I'm serious. Immediately, I called Rob Rennell. Rob was the pro at Through the Green. And Rob took her in and began the pain of practice, where she was hitting tens of thousands of golf balls every summer. Boom, boom. And by the time of her junior year, Brittany is here, one of her teammates at Brentwood High School. Their junior year, they won the state championship. And their senior year together, being in the same class, they finished third in the state. So as that process began, you can hear and note that the skills were being developed. She was understanding the game, and there were a lot of things that she was able to take away from the great game of golf. Mindy and I had the opportunity to visit several colleges. Being a coach, being a father, I wanted that experience with her. And unfortunately, the majority of those experiences, I would always ask her on the ride home, what'd you think? What'd you think? 2 or 3 times, Dad, I couldn't tell, were they recruiting you or they were recruiting me? Because I ended up knowing a lot of these coaches just through athletics. But there was one coach that made it perfectly clear. It was about Mindy. We're not opening a garage or a gas station. The last time we were together, you said you cried every opening of a gas station. There's some, I'll get my shots afterwards. But what Michael Johnson did, he made it about Mindy. And it was clear to Debbie and I, this was going to be about Mindy. And he was a great father figure, a great coach for her on the next level. It was very easy for us to sign her over to Michael Johnson. But not only was it Michael Johnson, it was Trevecca. And we're thrilled and honored that she received the opportunity to not only play golf, but to experience a Christian education at Trevecca Nazarene University. And I know you guys are proud of that. We're proud of that as well. And we're honored that she's being honored. Thank you.
This is an evening I have both looked forward to and feared. I have looked forward to joining the Trevecca Athletics Hall of Fame, and I'm very nervous to speak to everyone. I'm so honored to be inducted and want to thank the committee members for their votes. I wish to thank my family for the hours they poured into supporting me in too many tournaments to count and driving me to practice facilities and lessons. My granddaddy, Roy Elder, who traveled with our team, and became the official team grandfather, providing plenty of snacks and Gatorade for all. He is no longer with us, and but I've saved a seat for him at our table. We know he's here in spirit and grinning from ear to ear. Sorry. I want to say a special thanks to Rob Rennell, who my dad thanked earlier, my first golf instructor, high school teammates at Brentwood High School, Brittany Beard, and Abby Goodrich, who was also a teammate here at Trevecca. College teammates, where we spent countless hours in the van and late night ice cream runs to make up for rough rounds on the course. Lifelong Trevecca friends, including Rachel Gilbert and Rhonda Day. I'm especially honored to be inducted with my coach, Michael Johnson. Without him, this would not have been possible. Coach has been advocating for this day for a very long time, and the fact that we get to do this together makes it so special. From day one, Coach showed his love for Trevecca and wanted to make sure each of his athletes will had a well-rounded college experience. On the course, we shared lots of laughter and adventures. I sincerely thank you all and look forward to seeing many additional Trevecca golfers joining me in the Hall of Fame in the near future.
I cry at these things too. I remember Curtis Lewis on one of the first bus rides. And I think it was his sophomore year he finally said something. I talked to him every time I went back to the bathroom, which apparently was often because I remember a lot of times going back but he was always sitting there. He was reading or he was studying, he was doing something. And I told his parents earlier that you can lead in many ways, and you can lead quietly, and Curtis did that. I am mad at him, though, because I broadcast a lot of his games, except for one. It was at Lee. Do you remember what you did at Lee, Curtis? Yeah, I do too. I listened to it. I was here sick, and you hit 8 threes to tie the record in a game. I told him a week or two later. I don't think he talked back to me at that point still. But I said you have to do it again and allow me to broadcast, and he did. And I'm thankful for that. Curtis was a tremendous player. When you do what I do, you look at stats and numbers, and when you look at his last 9 regular season games, it's pretty impressive. He averaged 25 points per game. This was all in conference. Most of those were the second time the conference teams had seen him, so they knew what was coming, and they still couldn't stop him. He hit 61% from the field, 62% from three-point range. And it wasn't like 6 of 10. It was 38 of 61 against teams that knew what was coming and knew what they had to stop to beat Trevecca. Well, they didn't beat Trevecca a whole lot in that second half because Curtis was leading the team. In the last 5 games of the year, which again was everybody seen him twice, scouting him like 15 times, he averaged 26 points a game and shot 67% from three-point range. It's pretty good numbers. One of the best senior years I've ever seen, here or at Belmont or at Vanderbilt, where I've broadcast. And so I want to introduce to you one of the best players I've ever seen play in a Trojan uniform, Curtis Lewis.
I put him on the spot. He originally wasn't supposed to do that, so I appreciate you doing that for me. And they say I only get 5 minutes, but I might go over, so you got to bear with me. But, I mean, it's really good seeing a lot of familiar faces. I haven't been here in God knows how long. But just want to give my thank yous, first of all, for the committee for voting for me. I know you guys had a lot of talented players to choose from. So to pick me, I'm honored and humbled by it. Just the Trevecca community as a whole for everything you guys do for students and the basketball team. And I want to start off by thanking my teammates. You know, it's too many to name for the 4 years I was here, but couldn't have done it without any of them, obviously. And one of the most memorable teammates I had was Robert Garrett, and he was probably the most unselfish player I ever played with, and probably the only person that watched basketball more than I did. And I can honestly say I've been playing I even play basketball now. I've been playing for my whole life, and that was probably one of the most fun years I've ever had playing the game because of him. So, you know, he's truly missed. And Coach Harris couldn't be here today, obviously. He didn't want it to be a distraction, but I couldn't be here without thanking him. He did so much for me, not just on the basketball court as far as helping me develop my game, but just overall as helping me mature as a young man, and we coached together, and I learned a lot from him. So I did get a chance to speak with him last night, and he kind of gave me some few tidbits of what he would say. and it was a brief phone call. We kind of got disconnected, but the last thing he said was like, "Man, Curtis, you were the greatest player I ever coached." And then it hung up. So it's up. But no, serious. I mean, I wouldn't be here without Coach Harris. I want to give another thank you to Todd Welch. He was our manager and pretty much would do anything you would ask for. I think probably the thing that I remember most is he would always open the locker room for me, because outside of practice, I always made a habit of getting in workouts, and I would always track him down and open the locker room. He would do it without a doubt. So thank you, Todd, for that. And my cousin Kinney, who I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He's pretty much who introduced me to Trevecca. So didn't know where I would go to school if it wasn't for you. So I want to thank you for that. And also being me and my brother's home away from home here. So thank you for that. And then my girlfriend from college, Charlotte. Amazing that she came here to be with me, but I can't believe it's been almost 20 years since I played here. But, she's probably the one person that's been in my corner through everything and probably believed in me more than anyone I could think of other than my parents. So just want to thank you for that. And one of my closest friends from Chicago, Jerry, he's crazy enough to drive here in 8 hours, and he's actually leaving back in the morning, which I don't know how he's going to do that. But, Jerry's had my back throughout the years. He's probably one of the funniest dudes I know. And just want to thank you for the advice you give me over the years, although I probably don't listen to you, but appreciate you giving it to me. I want to thank my brother, Anthony, who's been there through thick and thin with me pretty much growing up. I mean, we had countless hours shooting in the backyard, playing one-on-one, and, that without knowing it, that probably made me tougher more than anything. And, the discipline that you took with, like, lifting weights and just the work ethic you took, I followed a lot of that. And, that means a lot to me. I carried that pretty much through my whole life, so I want to thank you for that. Crazy enough, he always wants to play me one-on-one, which it never worked out for him. So hopefully we can get a game in before we leave. Maybe Todd, you can open the gym up one more time, and we can play. And last but not least, my parents. My parents have been my rock. They've been through me through everything, my inspiration, my motivation, and my biggest fans by far. Unfortunately, they didn't live here, and they were in Chicago, so they couldn't come to all my games, but they came to as many as they could. I never took that for granted because, there's so many players on the team that had their parents there, and I didn't get to have my parents there every game. So for them to come whenever they could make it and make that drive was special to me. This is the mushy part, so be prepared for this. So for my mom, just being overprotective, making sure I was at the right place at the right time. As always, I know I gave you a hard time about that, but you were always there for me, making sure I had the latest Jordans to play in, and just putting that determination in me and making sure that I was always determined to prove people wrong. And also for taping my games in high school and always yelling, "Follow your shot," and "Let's go defense" in the background. That was all that she knew. But anyway, and just lastly but not least, my dad, just for introducing me to the game, and also taking a hint when I couldn't hit or catch a baseball and let me play basketball as my number one sport. And just instilling in me a work ethic, teaching me how to be a man on and off the court, for always challenging me, forcing me to think the game, and most importantly, have fun. And I sit back and I can just remember the thousands of pep talks we had, making me set goals. And I think one thing that you told me that I'll never forget is that it's not what happens to you, is how you respond to it. And so that's something that I'll cherish with me for the rest of my life. One thing I'll never forget. So I played with the Nashville Bronx for a year, and it wasn't the best basketball. There's probably more people in this room now than it was during those games. And so, crazy enough, my dad came to every single game. And he drove here to watch me play. And that's something that, while I was warming up, I vividly remembered that. And so, that meant the world to me, to see that. So, just to put in perspective, I know Ruff sat here and said all the different numbers and stuff, but But you know, the thing for me that the part that I cherish the most is just the journey of it all. You know, I look back on when I first played, there was a coach that told me casually shooting around will never improve your game. And that's something that I never forgot. And I never took the game for granted. And so I played with a lot of great players, played against a lot of great players. But I can confidently say this, and not arrogantly, but I never met a player that could outwork me. And so that was something that I tried to hold on to my own, and there's so much that you do when you play this game. If you commit yourself to it, that I did. I sacrificed so much. You know, I was getting up at 5 a.m. as a teenager. I was doing 2-a-days. I sacrificed my social life, and Charlotte could attest to that. I did so much, shooting in the rain, shooting in the snow. So for me, it means a lot because it kind of puts a stamp on my career and just what I was able to do, and it helps me create a legacy or story for my family as well for the players that I coach. So once again, it's an honor. I'm grateful, and thank you.
As you can see, Curtis has learned to talk. He did, in all fairness. When he came and did the post-game radio, he was great, and he talked, and by the time he was a senior, I think we had some great conversations about a lot of stuff, and really appreciated what he had to say up here today. The next person that I get to introduce is Ernie Reynolds, and I didn't get to see Ernie beforehand, but Ernie has always made me laugh. And you know, one of the things, and Ernie, you can go ahead and come on up because I'm going to try to move because you may hit me when I say this, but Ernie won a lot of games here, and he didn't lose many, but he lost a lot of hair while he was here.
Much of that was your fault. Well, it is wonderful to be back here on this campus. I've been out in the business world for the last several years, and only a few people I know anymore ever knew that I coached. But when the occasion comes up and I get to tell them that I was here, people say, well, what was it like? And the first sentence that always comes out is that it was the sweetest, caringest, happiest, most loving environment that I've ever been in. And it is a thrill to be back here. I'm especially proud to be here tonight to talk about one of my very favorites. Hand-raised by Trevecca alums Cindy and Ronnie, Chelsea Bailey Bradley. There are not many worlds where someone who was known for stealing and breaking things and hits and runs would be honored. But here in our world of sports, Chelsea's base stealing, her many broken records, including national records, and all the successful hits and runs we got to have putting pressure on defenses with her speed and her bat skills makes it very appropriate that we honor her here tonight. In our game, like in baseball, players are judged by measurable traits. We call them the 5 tools. Someone that can hit for average, hit for power, someone that can play good defense, someone that has an arm, and how well they run. Chelsea was what we would call a 5-tool player, and she had all of those tools in spades. She could have started at any university in this country, but she chose us. And there's something more than the measurable gifts, as we got to know Chelsea, we realized made her so special. Early in her freshman year, before we ever got onto a competitive field, just in practice, she ran in pursuit of a fly ball into our outfield fence. Immediately, I looked at the then assistant coach and I said, this kid doesn't understand depth perception, or she is that one in a lifetime player you get who literally will run through a fence for her team. Fortunately for all of us, it was the latter. She became known as Rio from that day because the fence in our outfield was built and manufactured and installed by the Rio Grande Fence Company. The Rio that we came to know here was competitive, quietly confident, team-oriented, and full of heart for the game. She was more than just a talent. She was a ball player. And boy, did God make a ball player when he breathed life into Chelsea Bailey. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, I learned as I got older that it wasn't about leading the horse to water, it's about leading a thirsty horse to water, and the rest takes care of itself. Chelsea came here thirsty. She wanted to get better, she wanted to learn, she wanted to succeed, and she wanted to work within the confines of a team. And she led, as I said, quietly, the rest of us on to some great years. She had enough innate ability to get by, not to practice as hard as she had to, and we would have been working with the lesser talented players and not ever noticed. But there's not a time that she took our field or the weight room without giving her very best. There's perhaps not a stereotype more common in sports than the talented underachiever. That's not who she is. I don't recall, as I said, a day when she didn't give her very best, and I don't recall a day that she ever made me worry about her. Coaches worry. I would go home at night after Trevecca practices, and my dog and I would eat what I called worry crackers with peanut butter and Ritz. And we would worry about everything and everyone. But that we never ate a cracker about her. She made other people worry. She made the pitchers of our opponents worry. She made the coaches of our opponents worry because our number 7 was one of those rare players who makes a team defend the entire field. She could outrun a 4-foot bunt, and she could hit the ball over the fence. A lazy ground ball to the second baseman wasn't taken for granted. It could be an infield hit. A gap double turns into a triple because of her aggressiveness and speed. And a perfectly innocent fastball with just this much plate becomes a game-winning home run. More than just hitting and fielding, she was about base stealing. She stole more than anyone before or anyone since at this school. She sold second routinely, third commonly, home a few times, and I think she stole first base a couple of times. So to all of you in this room that is full of talented, achieving, successful doers, I introduce to you a new beloved teammate, a Hall of Famer, Chelsea Rio Bailey Bradley.
Like Mindy was a little nervous for tonight, and I told Coach Reynolds he could have all of my 5 minutes. And he said I still had to get up here and speak to everyone. So I'd like to say congratulations to the Hall of Fame class of 2018, including my former teammate, Ronnie Phelps. It's an honor to join you all in the Trevecca Athletics Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank Greg Ruff, Mark Elliott, and everyone else who helped put this night together. To my former coaches, Coach Reynolds, thank you for teaching me that in order to lead your outfield, I needed to find my voice. It was such a privilege and honor to play for you, and I don't think I can put into words the way you impacted my softball experience. Coach Dale, your presence on and off our field was always so calming and welcoming. You were always our voice of reason, and your involvement in all TNU sports is commended. My experience here at TNU was such a positive one, and I will always be grateful for the lifelong friendships and memories that I made. Thank you.
Angela Sullivan is going to come up and introduce Ronnie, and Angela is one of my favorites, and She's also one of Ernie's favorites because she left him a lot of players as he took over for her when she left. One of her best was Ronnie, but Angela's one of my favorite people. I'm going to go ahead and ask her just to come on up. She did not lose any hair while she was at Trevecca.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the entire 2018 class. You've all done something very special for your sport and the university. Michael, who'd have thought 20 years ago when we first met that our road would lead here tonight, I respect you so much and so thankful for you. Congratulations. And I'd publicly like to congratulate Chelsea. You were one heck of a player, and thank you for all you did for Trevecca softball. Well, when I became head softball coach here, I was looking for a program changer, and I really wanted a highly respected local kid because I felt like we needed some validation here with the Middle Tennessee athletes. And I thought if we got a local star, that down the road we could continue to recruit Middle Tennessee athletes. Well, I got all of that and much, much more. In Brentwood High School's Ronnie Phelps, but I almost blew it. A well-known softball instructor called me one night over here in the gym on the office phone, and she said, I have a special player I want to tell you about that I think can change your program. Well, I got my pen and paper out and wrote down the name and number. It was too late to call that night, so I anxiously awaited, and I called the next night, and a man answered the phone, and I said, can I speak to Ronnie? And he said, who? And I knew then I was mispronouncing her name. He said, this is Ron, and my daughter's name is Ron A. Is that who you're looking for? And I said, oh gosh, nothing like getting started off on the wrong foot. But I survived the call, and the rest is history, as they say. Ron A could hit, and she could do something I've not seen before since. She could hit home runs from both sides of the plate. That doesn't happen in the softball world. And we were talking earlier, and she normally did it with the bat. You couldn't even read the brand. It was so old. We finally got her some new bats when she got here. She could slap. She could run. She played remarkable defense. Ronnie was a rule follower and an excellent student with ambitions of being in the medical field. Just a perfect fit for Trevecca. So when she came to campus and practices began, she was normally the first one on the field and the last one off the field. One of our team sayings was, hustle everywhere you go. Well, in other words, just keep up with Ronnie. She talked fast, she walked fast, she ran fast. She still does. The team just seemed to fall in line behind her. She didn't demand that they fall in line, but she just earned it by being a good teammate, working hard, and, well, being the best player on the field. So you can imagine how we all felt when we were practicing rundowns one day before our season began, and she was the runner between third and home, and I'm over in the third base area, and we hear a loud pop. An ACL tear before her freshman year even began. Well, she came back strong the next year, and she and the team had 3 record-breaking years where she set records, won awards, and even had a shoulder surgery thrown in there. Then her 5th and senior year, warming up for a fall scrimmage, another ACL tear in the other knee. Most athletes would have just finished classes and graduated and moved on with the next chapter in their life, and understandably so. But no, not Ronnie. She wanted the opportunity to finish the last year of her career, and she couldn't let it end with an injury. So the NAIA, Coach Smith probably remembers this, they granted her a special 6th year. She had to sit out of classes that spring and the following fall, and so she moved out of the dorm, moved home, got a job, rehabbed her knee. I don't know many who have done that. A year and a half later, she comes back and took 1 hour of classes to be eligible to play and to graduate. That's how much she loved the sport, how much she was dedicated to her teammates and this university. She had an exceptional year, even after sitting out almost a year and a half. She graduated with over a 3.5 GPA and was accepted into Trevecca's physician's assistant program. So, after an 8-year relationship with Trevecca, she graduated and is currently working in Brentwood as a physician's assistant, which I called on her earlier this week for medicine. It's good. She finished her career with her name all over the record books, including being the all-time hits leader. She set the bar for the athletes that have come after her. But to me, Ronnie's Hall of Fame honor goes way beyond the numbers. It was that journey that she had to take to be here tonight. And she traveled it with such character, grace, sheer grit, and dedication to her teammates and this university. Ronnie, I'm grateful I got to be your coach. You made me better. And it's truly an honor to be here to introduce you tonight. I'm so proud of you. And each week, when my Middle Tennessee students come to me for softball lessons and they're wearing their Trevecca softball shirts, I just smile and think about how far the program has come and how that local kid from Brentwood High School, Ronnie Phelps, had to do with that. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronnie Phelps Russell.
Coach Sullivan, thank you so much for that humbling introduction. I'd like to say what a privilege it is to be standing here today. I want to congratulate all of the inductees, and it's an honor to be going into the Hall of Fame with such an outstanding group. I want to start by thanking the Hall of Fame Induction Committee for recognizing my accomplishments on the softball field while here at Trevecca. I'm truly honored and humbled. I thought I'd start by giving you a little bit of history of how I got here. I grew up in upstate New York, a farmer's daughter, and I'd like to think that my work ethic came from my parents and watching them work so hard to provide for our family. My ball career started with t-ball and then moved on to baseball. And about 11 years old, I got hit by a pitch by a 13-year-old boy, and my mom said, "That's it. No more, you're gonna go play with the girls." So softball it was. And at 16, my family moved here to Tennessee, and where I attended Brentwood High School. Softball was different here. They were basically year-round. New York, it was 3 months out of the year. And girls were so much more competitive and so much better. At a travel ball tryout, my dad called me over right before the hitting portion, and he said, "Tell him you're a switch hitter." I said, "Dad, I'm not a switch hitter." And he replied, "But so what? You can do it. Get up there and hit left-handed." I looked at my mom, and she agreed, so I went and did it. I don't know what they were thinking, but it must have worked out. I made the team. So my sophomore year at Brentwood High School, I sat the bench. I was the new girl, and I never really got a chance to show what I could do. So I decided that after my senior year, I'd give up softball, and I'd quit. But Brentwood got a new coach my senior year, and that coach was Ernie Reynolds. Coach Reynolds took my dying love for the game and reignited it. He made me love the game again. His passion and knowledge of the game seeped into every one of us and made me realize that I was not ready to give this sport up. Coach Reynolds was able to get several colleges to take a look at me. One of those was Trevecca. I recall getting a call from Angela, and standing in my kitchen, she was telling me about Trevecca and the physician assistant program. I'll be honest, I had no idea what a PA was. Little did I know that conversation would be the catalyst for my future. I recall coming to Trevecca for a tryout and touring the campus, and I remember the new field that was still in construction phase and the cadaver lab. I was excited about that. Little did I know how much time I would end up spending on that field and in the cadaver lab. I knew that when I left that visit, this was where I was supposed to be. My years at Trevecca were a blessing. It was where I was supposed to be. I know I can't recall every win or every loss, but I remember the friendships, the bus rides, which included these two singing "Love Can Build a Bridge" by the Judds over walkie-talkies. I remember the life lessons, the fun that I had playing the game I love. Yes, there are things that I'd like to forget, like the 5 a.m. workouts in the pool or running hills, and there were hardships like my injuries. This experience was about getting to do all those things with my teammates, to win and lose together, to experience the special time in our lives. So it made my years here so special. And I can't stand here today and said I did it by myself. I didn't score runs or get RBIs, make outs, or win games by myself. I couldn't be standing here without people like other Hall of Fame members, Jamie Toomey, Jennifer Perkins, Ashley McCool, Brittany Johnson, Chelsea Bailey, and Angela Sullivan. These ladies made me the player I am. Their success, my success is their success. Their success is my success. Their talent made me work harder and made me spend just a little bit more time hitting off that tee. I wanted to be the best for my team, so the credit goes to so many others that made this day possible. Today is not just an accumulation of stats and numbers, but what those stats and numbers represent. They're a representation of the hours of hard work, dedication, and deep love for the game. So Coach Reynolds, I want to thank you for reminding me why I love the game of softball. Thank you for helping me find a place like Trevecca. I'm so thankful that you decided to take on Trevecca my senior year. It was only fitting that we came full circle with both my senior years. You asked me before you took the job here if I thought we could win nationals. I told you yes. And, you know, we may not reach that goal, but 5th place for our first trip to the tournament wasn't too shabby. Thank you for pulling every last bit out of all of us and getting us there. Thank you for expanding my coaching abilities and taking me under your wing. Coach Reynolds and I had the opportunity to coach some 16 and 18 under teams in the summer. And I hope that I was able to make an even slight impact on those girls that you did for me. Coach Gartner, thank you for always being there for me. Thank you for helping me develop a personal relationship with Jesus. My spiritual growth while here at Trevecca was because of my coaches. These two are God-fearing women that taught me to put God first and that all things are possible through him. Coach Sullivan, where do I start? God had a plan, and he put you in my life to help execute that plan. You took the belief that you had in the program and your amazing gift of teaching and took this program to the next level. You had faith to sign this girl that you had barely even seen play. Coach Sullivan, you taught me many things, but one thing has always stuck with me. You told me, believe in God, believe in yourself, and know that I believe in you. And with that, anything is possible. Yes, I applied that to softball, but I've applied that to everything I do. You have a way of taking what I would consider to be a human's greatest fault, self-doubt, and removing that from the equation. That even in those times when I thought I couldn't do it, I knew that you had the belief in me, and that's all it took. So, Coach Sullivan, you gave this girl the greatest gift a coach can give a player. You taught me to believe in myself. Your legacy at Trevecca is not only the awards on the walls or the stats in the book, but your legacy is the many lives that you've changed for the better in the process. I think that's more meaningful to me than anything. You made a lasting impact on my life. I'm so proud of the accomplishments and the adversity that these two women got me through. They have become my lifelong friends. They were the first faces I saw after my ACL surgery, along with Coach Reynolds. But even 10 years later, they were there when I woke up from my successful thyroid cancer surgery. I'm so thankful God put you in my life, not for just a brief moment, but you guys are stuck with me for the long haul. Of course, I have to thank my first coach, my dad. Thanks for reminding me that because I was the coach's daughter that I would have to work even harder. Mom, thanks for catching me when I was little and all the bruises that came along with that. Thank you for both always being there and pushing me to be better, but also for not pushing me too hard. But you let me lead the way. You never pushed me to the point that I forgot why I played the game. You let my love for the game lead the way and made every opportunity available for me to make sure my dreams came true. Thank you for your endless love, but most of all, thanks for informing me that I was a switch hitter and believing that I could do it. Because obviously, left hand got me somewhere. Thanks to my 3 brothers that are sitting here. You guys are by far my biggest fans. Thanks for loving me as much as you do and making me as tough as I am. To my husband, Roger. Man, you may have never seen me play on the ball field at Trevecca, but if it wasn't for Angela inspiring me to give hitting lessons, we never would have met. I never came to Trevecca to break any records or be in the Hall of Fame. I came here to work hard, get a good education, and play the game I love. It just so happens that the Hall of Fame was a product of those. It was a place that encouraged me to thrive. I'm proud of the fact that at 25 years old and 3 surgeries later, I was able to hold my own with players like Chelsea Bailey. So thank you to everyone that helped me get there, and it's an honor to represent Trevecca, and I hope that I made you proud then, and I hope that I continue to make you proud in the future.
Well, the last one is also special to me, and Michael and I spent a lot of time together on the road, and I just have to, one thing that I would say about Michael, so many times he gave me great advice, and the woman beside him's one of those, and so I appreciate you for all that, and my 3 kids. who I have one of them here tonight too. Which brings me to the person that's going to introduce him, which is Brian. Brian actually worked for me in sports information as a student, and he did a great job. And one of the greatest joys that I've had as a Trevecca employee is watching him and his dad broadcast our only national championship game. I'm sure he'll talk about that. But it made me understand what it meant to be a dad. And I remembered at that time that my father and I got to broadcast a game together. And it meant a lot to me that night. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people ask me why I didn't broadcast that game. And I said I would never broadcast that game. Brian had broadcast all year, and he was going to broadcast that one, and I'm glad he did. And I got to take pictures of it, and got to post a few of those recently. So I'm going to introduce Brian Johnson.
Thank you, Greg. In our family, we share what we have. We share money when someone needs it. We share food when something tastes really good. We share laughs and good stories, from a student at my mom's school, or when my son Braden says something funny. My dad, known to many as DJ, Coach, Michael, Papa J, and even as Greg has dubbed him, the master of atmosphere, he shares his love for Trevecca. The motto for our family through the years has been to love God, love people. I think you could add love Trevecca to that. My dad bleeds purple and always has. In college, he once quit a job at Spaghetti Factory because his boss wasn't going to give him the night off that Trevecca was going to play crosstown rival Lipscomb. I think it was like 2 days on the job, right? Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of investment.
Yeah. He loved Trevecca so much that in 1981, he married the president's daughter. And it was that same year that he began doing the public address for then TNC basketball games. First as a newlywed student, then as a banker for Commerce Union, and then all the various roles he served here at Trevecca over the years. He was the PA and voice of the Trojans for 31 years. That's how old I am. Some of my earliest memories, though, here at Trevecca are going to basketball games. I remember halftime there being an airplane toss for a free pizza if you made it in the center circle, buying baseball and basketball cards from Roger Costa out in the hallway, and then hearing my dad's voice over the PA system, "Here come the Trojans," and stealing a basket was always a good one. Some of my favorite memories, like Greg talked about, were on the road trips to away games and national tournaments, going to Kansas City to watch the guys, going to Jackson to watch the girls basketball team. Like Greg mentioned, my dad and I were fortunate to call the only national championship game in Trevecca's history. Our women's basketball team was on a great run. They were underdogs every game of that tournament, and we made it all the way to the championship. And my dad and Greg raced from Kansas City, made it to Jackson in time for him to call that game. It was a great run and great memories. But it's not just his voice that makes him great, it's his presence. When you're in my dad's presence, you feel welcome, accepted, and encouraged. I think that's why he's done so well in the various roles and coaching positions here at Trevecca, namely women's golf. The girls won 7 conference championships in 12 seasons as golf coach, and it helped to have great golfers like Mindy, but I think it's also a tribute to his encouragement and wisdom as their coach. Every single golfer of his that I spoke to mentioned that they knew how much he cared about them. I also put it out there to my friends on social media to describe him if they had interactions with him at Trevecca. So many people answered with kind-hearted, passionate, genuine, loyal, dedicated, impactful. He's truly made an immeasurable impact on Trevecca and so many students that have come here in the 35 or so years he's been on this campus. Even people who didn't go to Trevecca call him an ambassador and see his purple pride on a regular basis. Author David Frost said, "Don't aim for success if you want it. Do what you love and believe in, and it'll come naturally." Loving God, loving people, and loving Trevecca just comes naturally to my dad. The success that's followed him is just a product of him doing what he loves. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the newest member of the Trevecca Athletics Hall of Fame, and my dad, Michael Johnson.
None of my sons were preachers, but I think Brian, may have a gift for speaking. It was really good. Angela Sullivan, I think, foretold of maybe my future with coaching women's athletics, and that's why I have my napkin with me. She told me in Jacksonville, Florida one time when I was just pouring my heart out about things that were going on with the team. She said, "You're just a woman in a man's body." So thanks for putting me last. Whoever made that, because first of all, my emotions are at a fever pitch because I have been so fortunate in my life. I wrote out a script because I tend to ad lib sometimes and things go really long. So here goes. Thank you, Brian. That was great. I also want to recognize Braden and Tinley. Braden is 6 years old. Tinley is 4. They're our 2 oldest grandchildren, and they made the trip up with Brian tonight. It's really great to have them here. To be going into the Trevecca Athletic Hall of Fame with greatness personified in Chelsea and Mindy and Curtis and Ronnie. Very humbling to me. I'm very grateful for this honor, and thanks to the committee members for your work and for extending this honor to me. We all have a story. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, but we moved to Jackson, Mississippi, summer between 9th and 10th grade, and at Jim Hill High School in the heart of Jackson, I developed a love of writing, particularly about sports, and learned so much about the power of story from a lady named Mary Meredith. Mrs. Meredith was a terrific English teacher and a journalistic expert. She is also the wife of James Meredith, the first African-American student at Ole Miss. I learned a lot from both of them and will always treasure that time in my life. It helped me gravitate toward telling stories about things that matter. So here's a bit of my Trevecca story and how it intersected with intercollegiate athletics. I arrived on campus in August of 1978, ready to get involved in just about everything we had going. I even went to class on occasion. New coach Ron Bargatze's Nazarene machine and those great knee-high uniforms had a record of 14-18, which was quite an improvement over the previous year. During my freshman year, they created quite a buzz. We beat Lipscomb for the first time ever. Brad Whitlow made 18 out of 18 free throws in that game. Still remember that. Among other things, I knew that I was hooked on being a Trojan fan. My first broadcasting gig was with my friend Howard Wilson. There's a picture of us in one of the yearbooks huddled up. I think we were playing in 30-degree weather, and we just looked miserable, mainly because we were. When I say we had a campus radio station, I mean it reached our whole campus. Thankfully, we had a better run over the last few years we had the station, and pretty well covered the whole Nashville area by the time it was over with. Frank Wilson, who was building a strong basketball program with the help of Steve Harris and others, asked me to be the public address announcer, as Brian mentioned, in my senior year. And over 31 seasons, it's very difficult to say these things are the most significant. But here are 3 highlights that I thought I would lift out. In 1987, our guys, with the man we called the Little General, Avery Patton leading the charge, went 30-4 that year. We beat Lipscomb in double overtime in the semifinals, and then Lee in the championship game, and we were going to Kansas City. It was unbelievable. There's a great picture of Avery sitting on the rim we had painter's hats back then that were sold in the bookstore. They were very stylish back then, actually. Avery was up there holding up his finger with the net around his neck. David Suddeth, our all-time leading scorer, in his final home game in 1992, scored 52 points against Freed Hardeman. He was launching shots from 30 feet or more and dunking on anybody who got in his way. It was one of the most unbelievable individual performances I ever saw. The 2004-2005 team started out 14-2, played great all season. They lost in the national tournament to #1 Mountain State that year, and I still wonder what might have been without Brandon Howard's devastating leg injury against Union in our gym that day. I could tell you 100 other stories, but I know I'm running short on time. Although there is a considerable backstory to how I ended up coaching women's golf, I'll just say that the 12 and a half years, I'm not looking over there, the 12 and a half years I was with the team will forever be part of my fondest memories. I just absolutely loved that time in my life. It was such a gift. Mindy's signing with us as a part of my first recruiting class was a game changer. I resonate so much with finding a game changer. We got two other good ones that year, including Noel Moffett Allen, who ended up coaching at 2 different universities before marrying and following her Marine flyer around. Abby Goodrich Curran was mentioned as well, who, as I recall, is the only golfer we ever had that made a hole-in-one in a tournament. She four-putted the last green in the conference tournament, but she made a hole-in-one. Abby, if you end up watching this, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Love you, though. I wish I had time to list every player's name with whom I had the privilege of working, and their parents as well. We won a lot of conference championships, as Brian mentioned. Starting with Mindy's crew, we qualified for the NAIA National Tournament in 2009. Ashley Birdwell Sism, Dr. Sism is back here in the room. Thanks for coming, Ashley, and being here. Betsy Beaver Gedgick was a big part of that as well. We won 2 GMAC conference championships after we made the transition to D2, and I wanted to mention, we had great players that I could talk about all night long, but my tenure with the golf team kind of wrapped up with what we called the Fab Four. Will and Ashley helped me with those girls. Kaylin King, Michaela Dodson, Marley Ingham Stecker, who's now coaching at Creekwood High School, and Alexa Rippey. They all sent me off in grand fashion. In closing, I want to say that I believe God wants to write a great story in and through each of our lives. I believe he tells people that he loves them most often through the words of other people. And I've heard God's love through more wonderful people than I could ever deserve. And many of you are here in this room this evening. I need to thank some important people, and I know you always run the risk of leaving somebody out, but bear with me for just a moment. I need to thank people like my parents, Talmadge and Janelle, who are with my brother and his family down in Houston this week. I wish every child could have parents who rooted for their kids the way my parents did for me and my brother, and still do. Our sons, each of whom graduated from Trevecca. You've met Brian here tonight, and Braden and Tinley are here. Ashley is back in the Atlanta area with 2-year-old Lennon. I encouraged Brian to bring Ashley and Lennon, and Brian just said, well, Lennon would try to take over, and we need, to keep it under control. Lennon's just awesome. She's becoming quite the singer. They have a karaoke machine at their house, and I'll show you some videos if you'd like. Our eldest, Chad, along with Amy and our almost 4-year-old grandson, Reston, live in Salisbury, Maryland, and he's doing fabulous work. Chad actually did some broadcasting as well, and he's a very generous donor with the university. Austin is our youngest and is pursuing the dream of entertainment. He's been in Los Angeles for about 5.5 years, and he will be married to Rebecca Lane this October. Blessed with a great family. Sarah's parents, who've been mentioned here, Homer and B. Adams, at 96 and 95, are still with us. Dr. Adams served as president here in 1979 to 91, was president when I first came to work here in 1985. Thanks to Frank Wilson and Sam Harris for the many years of friendship and good times with the basketball programs. Thanks to the ADs that I was able to work with during my golf coaching tenure. Alan Smith is here, Dr. Brenda Patterson, and Mark Elliott. I'll always be grateful to Dr. Steve Harris for bringing us back here in 1997. Y'all wouldn't know it, but we came back a little bit bruised in some ways, and the chance to work in student development for those 12 years with you and You know, we love you and Jan so much. Thank you for bringing us back. Then in 2009, Dr. Boone invited me to come alongside him and try a little something new. And it's been great working with him and Pat Cooning. I think you all know this, but Dan and Denise Boone are TNU Trojan cheerleaders and friends to all of us. And I appreciate the way that you care and love for students so much. And Denise, the way you yell at referees. It warms my heart. I also want to mention 1985 to 1992, during my first stint at Trevecca, particularly Dr. Ed Nash, who invited me to come back to work at Trevecca, Howard Wall Jr., who passed away many years ago, and Dr. Melvin Welch. Todd, love you and your family. I want to say thanks to Greg Ruff, who, in my opinion, and apparently in the opinion of the athletic director, is a Trevecca treasure as well, the Trojan head. That's great, buddy. We've covered a lot of miles, talked about TNU sports for years. That included Kinney and the flock of Steagulls, as we like to call them. We would load up and go to away games and play Trivial Pursuit, going and coming. It was a lot of fun. Kinney and I actually roomed together for a little while, and that's why he's such a success in his business, I'm sure. Yeah, I'd never bothered him. I was hardly ever in the room, you know. But love and appreciate you guys. Dr. Dwight and Karen Gunner are here with us, not only the chairman of the board and our pastor. They've been like family to Sarah and me since we first met back in 1978. Glad you guys can be here. Finally, and I know we got to go, thanks to my wife, Sarah. She's just the best. We met here almost 40 years ago, and I was a goner the first time I saw her. Punched my brother in the ribs and said, I will meet her before the day is over. I was really cocky back then. She was a harder catch than I expected. Sarah's a Hall of Famer as a public school teacher, mom, daughter, friend, and clearly the most patient and understanding wife in the history of marriage. Thanks for taking this ride with me, babe. Look how far we've come.
Dr. Boone, they do us proud, don't they? Very good. Never disappoint. There's not much else to say other than if they would please stand, our inductees, if you would please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the 2018 class. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.